Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut this princess that stylish blouse with a turtle neckline. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Let's dive right into today's video.
First to start, I've marked out all my basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waist, and my blouse length, which I added 5 inches, but I later extended to 7 inches. So next, I'm going to go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2, and I will add half. Come down by 1 inch from that point, and I will connect to the upper part to draw a shoulder slope. After I'm done marking this, the next step is to find your chest line. Your chest line is also your armhole line, and to find that is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to make a mark at that point. After I'm done doing that, I'll just go ahead and mark what I have on the shoulder, which is my shoulder divided by 2 plus half, because this dress has a sleeve. Now I'll go ahead and divide what I have here by 2, and I'll mark. Come in by ½ inch, and at that point I'll go down and mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll be placing my curved rule to connect from that point all the way to the upper part of my shoulder. So next, you want to go ahead to mark your dart intake, and to start marking that, you need to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. So I'll go ahead and mark that 3.5 from the beginning of my pattern to the lower part. After I'm done marking that out, I'll go ahead to place my ruler and connect, drawing out a straight line. So after that, I'll go ahead and mark a dart intake of 1 inch at both sides. So if you're plus size, you're going to be using 1.5 inches, or if you're a bit curvy, you'll be using 1.5 inches. So after that, I'll go ahead to place my ruler, and I'm going to draw a straight line connecting. After I'm done drawing out these lines, I'm going to connect from the bust down to the under bust, and I will also repeat this at the other side of my pattern. So after this, the next step is just to go ahead to use my marker, and I will outline. After I'm done outlining, I'll go ahead to draw out the princess dart effect on the dress. Now I'll divide my armhole into 2 and mark. Connect from this point, and I will mark. So this is what I have at this point, and I'll be marking ½ inch at both sides, and I'll go ahead to reconnect it down to the initial line, and go ahead to use my marker to connect, and also connect for the other side. So after I'm done connecting at this point, now this dart intake of ½ inch on both sides, we are going to go ahead to replace it at this side. And also, this is to make sure that when you're joining the side to the center won't be a bit longer than the side. Now I'll measure that 1 inch, and I will mark, and I'm going to go ahead to reconnect it to my armhole this way. So this is what I have after I'm done marking at this point.
Now I'll go ahead and mark my neckline for the turtle neckline. So I'll mark 3 inches by 2 inches. That means I'll be coming down by 2 inches. And after that, I'll go ahead to connect and draw out my neckline. So after that, you'll be cutting out a piece that you attach to the upper part of the neckline. After I'm done drawing out my neckline, the next step I'll take is to insert my body measurement, which is my bust circumference divided by 4, and I will measure this 1 inch dart intake, and I will replace it and add my sewing allowance. So after doing that, at the under bust, I will measure the under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake there, and I will replace. And after replacing it, I'll add my sewing allowance. So I'll move over to the waistline. I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and I will add my sewing allowance. So use any sewing allowance of your choice. Here I will mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, and I will add my sewing allowance also to this pattern. So after doing that, I'm going to connect from the upper part down to the lower part of my pattern. And after that, I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline. So after I'm done marking this out, so next is to draw out our neckline of this dress and also the yoke area. So at this point, I'm going to be coming down by 0.5 inches and come up by 0.3 or 0.5 there. Now I'll just go ahead and connect it. So this is the yoke we have at the upper part of the pattern, and here I'll just go ahead and extend my dart lower. So remember, like I said, I extended the length by 2 inches. So I'll place my tape here and mark 3 inches from my waistline, blend my dart, and I'll be taking this all the way to the other side of my pattern this way. So after I'm done cutting out, this is what I have at this point, and I'll go ahead and mark my bust dart. So to determine your bust dart is the difference from your shoulder to waistline in front and your shoulder to waistline at the back. So mine is 1.5 inches. I marked 1.5 inches there, and I'll go ahead to draw that out and use my marker to outline it, and I will shade it just to indicate that I have a bust dart. So for the boning of this dress, you're going to be sewing it on the lining piece, and you're going to measure what you have here. So what I have is 3 inches, and we'll be using that to create the design for the sleeve. So after that, I'll just go ahead and cut this out. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up and also leave your comment, and if you have a question, also leave it at the comment section. So at the bust dart area, you're also going to blend it in, and you're going to cut out the yoke. So after that, we'll move over to the back pattern. I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements just like we did for the front pattern, and the only difference is that I have a zipper at the back. So now for my pattern at the back, I'll place my tape to show you that my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5 inches, and after that I measured 7 inches. So the front waistline, shoulder to waistline, is 17.5, making it a difference of 1.5. So after that, I'll go ahead and mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and note all my measurement is starting immediately after the zipper line. And after that, I'll go ahead, place my ruler, and I will connect, drawing out a straight line. From that point, I'll mark 1/2 inch on both sides, and I will repeat the same thing at the lower side. So I want to make use of a straight line at this part, and I will use my ruler, place, and connect to draw out a straight line. After I'm done marking that out, at the upper part, I'll come down by 1 inch, go ahead to reconnect from the waistline to the upper part, and I will repeat this at the other side also. So after I'm done doing this, I'll just go ahead to insert my body measurement, which is my bust circumference divided by 4. And after marking that, I'll add my sewing allowance. Here, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake, and I will replace it. Add my sewing allowance. Now at the blouse length, I'll go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace, and I'll add my sewing allowance. After that, I'll go ahead to connect from the upper part of my pattern to the lower part of my pattern this way. After I'm done connecting, I'm just going to go ahead to use my marker, and I will outline the rest of my pattern to make it visible. So after I'm done doing that, we can go ahead to alter the pattern. So I'll divide my armhole into 2 and reconnect to my dart. So I'll go out by 1/2 inch just to make sure that the side meets the center when I'm joining it. So after this, I'll just go ahead and reconnect. After I'm done reconnecting, I'll also reconnect the upper part, and I'll be drawing out my neckline of 3 inches by 1.5 for the neckline at the back. And I'll just go ahead and I will reconnect. And after reconnecting, I'll use my marker to draw out a straight line at this part. From the upper part, just the same way we connected at the front, I'll just draw out like a slanty effect at the back yoke. So I didn't see exactly what we have at the back, but I'm just trying to recreate this to make it look similar to what we have at the front. So I'll come in by 1/2 inch by the waistline, take it all the way down, and I will reconnect it up. This is to get rid of the zipper bulge at the back of the dress. So at the back here, I'll place my tape, and I'll go up by 2.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to connect it all the way to the back. So I'm just trying to create like an asymmetric effect at the back, just like we have at the front part of the dress. So after this, I'll just go ahead and I will cut out my pattern. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up, and if you have any question regarding this tutorial, also leave it at the comment section. After that, we'll go ahead to cut out the sleeve of this dress. So here is my pattern paper for the sleeve, and the first thing you want to get is the total length of your sleeve. So I'll be using the total length of this pattern, which is about 24 inches. And after that, I'll go ahead to mark ½ inch on top, which will serve as my starting point for this pattern, and I'll go ahead and rule a straight line. So after that, I'll go ahead to mark my sleeve cap height, which is 3.25, but I like approximating mine to 3.5. So to get that is your bust circumference divided by 12 plus 0.5 inches. So after marking that, I'll just place my tape from the upper part, and I will mark my shoulder to elbow point. Mine is 13 inches. After marking out that point, I will go ahead and place my ruler, and I will draw out a straight line. So the next step I'm going to take from there is just to go ahead to divide my armhole circumference and mark. My armhole circumference is 16 inches divided by 2. I have 8 inches, and I'll go ahead and draw a straight line at that point. Then I'll go ahead to divide that line into 2. On one side, I will redivide that line and mark, and on the other side, I will redivide it and also mark. Here, I'll come up by ½ inch, and on the other side, I'll come down by ½ inch, and I will reconnect it. So this is just a basic way of drafting your basic sleeve, and after this, I'll just go ahead and reconnect this. After I'm done reconnecting, at the elbow, I'll measure what I have divided by 2, and I'll mark and add sewing allowance to my pattern. So after here, I'll just be connected to the upper part of my sleeve. So for the lower part, you're not going to use your exact measurement. You're going to measure your wrist round and add like few allowance. So me, I'll be using 13 inches divided by 2. I have 6.5, adding 1 inch to it, or 1.5, because you're going to be turning it up, but you don't need too much sewing allowance. So 1 inch or 1.5 is enough. So I'll just go ahead and reconnect my pattern. So this is what my sleeve looks like, and I'll just go ahead and cut this out. But before cutting out, I'll be adding ½ inch on top, which will be serving as a joining allowance to the dress.
So I'll go ahead and cut out the sleeve before we go ahead to create the stylish effect we have at the upper part of the sleeve. After cutting this out, this is what I have. So I'll place my tape from here, and I'll mark 3 inches, and I'll just draw this out, and from here I'll be taking this down to the lower part of my pattern this way. So I didn't want to use the middle part of my sleeve, because at the side of the dress, if you notice, the side of the sleeve, sorry, that is where the curve started. So if I measure it from the 3 inches from that side, it might not really tally with what I have. So after cutting this, if you have any readjustment, you can just do it before cutting it out on the main material. So after this, you're just going to go ahead and cut out your pattern, and with this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. If you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, and see you in our next video.